Hi, my name is Joel Keller, and this is my presentation on the eye for my anatomy and physiology course at California Baptist University. All right, starting off with the eye as a complex organ that helps us see the world around us, and vision is the sense that's utilized most by the human body. And over 70% of all sensory receptors are found in the eyes, which is interesting. The anatomy and physiology of the eye and nerves to process vision are very detailed and systematic, and the intricacy points, I believe, to a creator or um, intelligent design. And moving on, speaking of the anatomy of the eye, we'll start with the external structures, which are there to protect the eye, including eyebrows to shade the eyes and prevent anything from dripping into the eyes, such as sweat, and eyelashes, which are embedded with special nerve endings to cause involuntary blinking, so that you don't have to consciously think to lubricate your eyes by blinking. Eyelids, to aid in moistening and protecting the eye from foreign objects, and the conjunctiva that lines and lubricates the eyelid and sclera. Now, the anatomy of the pathway of light is very interesting to me personally. So we're going to really kind of look in depth at that, the pathway of light. Light, starting with light entering through the cornea. The cornea is the anterior portion of the eyeball, or all the way in the front, the first thing that the light comes to, and accounts for 1/6 of the fibrous layer, with sclera comprising the other 5/6, and is also responsible for 2/3 of light refraction. After the cornea, moving towards the posterior, we have the anterior chamber, which is posterior to the cornea, and contains the nutrient-filled aqueous humor, which is produced by the ciliary body. Next, the pupil and iris. The iris is a donut-shaped muscle that dilates and restricts to regulate the light entering the eye. And the pupil is made by the opening created by the iris. Light then travels through the pupil. Next, the light gets to the lens, which is responsible for the remaining light refraction. It is hard, flexible, and transparent structure composed of crystalline protein, and changes shape to focus the light on the retina. The ciliary body is a muscle structure that is attached to the lens and controls its shape. Along with the lens, ciliary muscles separate the anterior chamber from the posterior chamber. And then the vitreous humor is located in the posterior chamber and is a gel-like fluid that helps to maintain the shape of the eyeball. The retina is a thin layer of photoreceptors that process the light and consists of an inner neural layer and an outer pigmented layer. The pigmented layer is the outer layer of the retina that attaches to the choroid, or the vascular layer. A single layer of cell. It is a single layer of cells that absorb light to prevent it from scattering. The inner neural layer is the layer that attaches to the pigmented layer and processes light. It also contains photoreceptors. The photoreceptors of the retina include rods and cones, with rods processing dim light and allowing for peripheral vision, while cones process bright light and provide high-resolution color vision. There are 3 types of cones: the red, the blue, and the green, and the activation of the different types of cones determines all the different colors we see. The macula lutea is the center of the retina and highly concentrated with cones. The center of the macula lutea is the fovea centralis. All right, now we'll move on to the physiology of the pathway of light. starting with retina physiology. Rods and cones send light signals to the bipolar cells. The bipolar cells relay light signal to ganglion cells. Action potential is generated and transmitted through axons of ganglion cells, ganglion, whatever. The light stimulus hyperpolarizes photoreceptors, causing a nerve impulse. And the axons of ganglion cells from the optic nerve. Optic nerve travels through the optic disc along with blood vessels. Optic nerves cross at the optic chiasm and continue through the optic tract to the primary visual cortex where the image is processed. All right, moving on, let's talk about a major problem affecting refraction being astigmatism, which is a defect in corneal curvature causing a distortion of vision. It is a light refraction problem and is commonly called either nearsightedness or farsightedness. Nearsightedness or myopia, the image is focused too far in front of the retina, whereas farsightedness or hyperopia, the image is focused too far behind the retina. And treatment could be corrective lenses or a surgical procedure, which brings us to our next slide, recent and major medical intervention, which I chose the LASIK eye surgery procedure. And in doing some research about it, I found out that there was a prior procedure called a photorefractive keratectomy, or a PRK, which was first performed in 1988, which is 3 years before the LASIK procedure. But this procedure uses a laser to remove the top superficial layer of the cornea called the corneal epithelium. The problem with this procedure was that it takes a good amount of time to recover because the corneal epithelium needs to regrow. And that's where LASIK comes in. First performed in '91. What it does is, what the doctor does is creates a corneal flap and uses a laser to remove layers of the cornea beneath the flap. And the reason that this is desirable is because it has a much quicker recovery since the epithelium is still intact and just has to heal the flap openings rather than regrow an entirely new one. From a biblical standpoint, I see LASIK and PRK as showing how we are indeed made in God's image, as it says in Genesis 1:27, because it takes an incredible amount of intelligence and true character, human spirit, all these things that I believe were endowed by the Creator, and none of the other beings on earth have anywhere near the ability to pull something like this off. So just the fact that humans are able to figure out how to repair such a complicated organ just shows intelligent design to me, because we were made with the ability to achieve such amazing things. And that about wraps it up. That's the end of this presentation, and got a few references. First being our textbook, and then another being where I learned most of what I learned about LASIK. And thanks for listening.